Today's story is about a woman who was kneeling by her husband's fresh grave when her own mother-in-law and brother-in-law mocked her pain. Before her tears even dried, they took her SUV and threw her out of her own home. They thought grief had finished her, that she would never return. They were wrong. She's back now, and what she brings with her will destroy everything they built. Don't take my word for it. Here is Elena's story, in her own words.
My name is Elena, and for 12 years I was the ghost in the machine of westbound logistics. People saw my husband, Mark, as this self-made titan of the trucking industry, the charismatic guy who built a $4.2 million empire from nothing. But the truth? The nothing we started with was actually my $85,000 inheritance from my grandmother. I remember sitting in our cramped, oil-stained garage in the humidity of mid-July, handing Mark the check and telling him I believed in him. I didn't just give him my money, I gave him my life. While Mark was out shaking hands and closing deals, I was the one up at 4 a.m. every single morning. I handled the dispatch logs, I navigated the nightmare of DOT compliance, and I kept the books balanced to the penny, and I didn't stop at the office. When Mark's brother, Liam, racked up a $12,000 debt with some very dangerous people after a bad weekend in Vegas, I was the one who pulled the money from my personal savings and paid it off. I did it quietly so Mark wouldn't have to carry that stress. And Beatrice, my mother-in-law? After her hip surgery, I spent 3 years of my life driving her to every physical therapy session, every follow-up, and every grocery run. I treated them like blood because I thought we were a team. I thought that by protecting Mark's family, I was protecting our future. I never realized I was just fattening up a pair of vultures who were waiting for the heartbeat to stop so they could start picking at the bones. Mark's funeral was on a Thursday. By Sunday, the silence in our home felt like a heavy, suffocating blanket. I was sitting on the edge of our bed, my fingers tracing the soft wool of his favorite charcoal sweater, just trying to breathe, when the front door slammed open. I didn't even have time to stand up before Beatrice marched into the room, her face devoid of the grief she'd been faking at the cemetery. Liam was trailing behind her, looking smug, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. "Time's up, Elena," Beatrice said, her voice as cold as a tombstone. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't offer a hug. She just held out her hand, palm up. "The keys to the SUV and the house. Now." I stared at her, my voice trembling. "Beatrice, what are you talking about? This is my home. I'm still in mourning." "Your home?" Liam stepped forward, pulling a crumpled, yellowed piece of paper from his pocket and shoving it into my face. "Mark knew you were just a gold digger. He signed this 6 months ago. It's a handwritten will. He left the house, the fleet, and the entire business to Mom and me. You were just a guest here, Elena, and your stay is over." I looked at the paper. It was a crude, obvious forgery. Mark would never have signed something so poorly written. But before I could even find the words to argue, Liam grabbed my upper arm. His grip was bruising. He dragged me toward the stairs, my feet barely touching the carpet. Beatrice followed, snatching my purse off the counter and digging out my car keys. "You don't belong in this neighborhood," she hissed as they shoved me out onto the porch. The rain was starting to fall, a cold, biting drizzle. "Go back to the gutter we found you in." Liam slammed the heavy oak door and I heard the deadbolt click. The same deadbolt I had paid the locksmith to install last year. I stood there in the driveway, drenched and shivering, watching as Beatrice climbed into my $70,000 SUV and backed out, splashing mud onto my only pair of shoes. They didn't just take my property, they tried to delete my existence. I sat on the edge of the guest bed at my parents' house for exactly 4 hours, staring at a flickering street lamp outside. My phone kept buzzing with alerts, bank notifications showing Beatrice and Liam were already out, spending Mark's money on $400 steak dinners and designer clothes. That's when the grief finally snapped. The sadness didn't leave, but it hardened into a cold, sharp blade of absolute clarity. They thought I was a helpless widow? Fine. Let them play with the grieving girl while the business architect goes to work. I opened my laptop and logged into the Westbound Logistics encrypted cloud server. I watched in real time as Liam tried to log into the payroll system 6 times, failing every single time because he didn't have the secondary authentication code, which lived on my phone. My husband was a genius at sales, but he was a romantic. He had signed a transfer on death deed for the house to me on our 10th anniversary. More importantly, because I provided the initial capital, the corporate bylaws listed me as the 51% majority shareholder. I didn't call them. I didn't text them. I just started a spreadsheet titled Project Liquidation. First, I opened the GPS tracking app for my SUV. I watched the little red dot pull up to a high-end luxury boutique downtown. I picked up the phone and called the police, reporting the vehicle as stolen by an unauthorized driver, providing the exact coordinates. Next, I called our corporate banker, Sarah. Freeze every single secondary credit card on the Westbound account, I told her. Report them as compromised. Within minutes, I saw the card declined alerts hitting my email. While they were standing at a cash register trying to buy their way into a life they didn't earn, I was busy cutting off their oxygen. I then contacted a commercial eviction service and the utility companies. Since the house was legally mine, I had a right to maintain the property. I scheduled the water and electricity to be cut off by Tuesday morning. If they wanted to live in my house, they were going to do it in the dark. By Tuesday morning, the rain had stopped, but the storm was just arriving for Beatrice and Liam. I pulled up to the house in a rental car, followed by 2 police cruisers and a locksmith. The mansion looked dead. No lights, no fountain running, just a cold, silent monument to their greed. As the locksmith began drilling the deadbolt, the door swung open. Beatrice stood there, her hair unwashed and her face pale. She started screaming, "You can't be here! We have the will!" But the officer didn't want to hear it. I handed him the notarized deed and the corporate filings. When Liam came charging out of the kitchen, looking disheveled and smelling like my husband's expensive scotch, the officers met him halfway. They didn't just escort him out. They handcuffed him right there in the foyer for felony document forgery and grand theft auto. I walked past Beatrice and handed her a single black trash bag. "You have 10 minutes to pack your clothes," I said, my voice as steady as a heartbeat. "The SUV is already back in my name and the bank is filing charges for the fraudulent charges you tried to run on the company accounts." The look of pure, agonizing terror on her face when she realized she was truly homeless was the only closure I needed. I watched from the porch, the same porch they threw me off of, as they stood on the sidewalk with their plastic bags, penniless and utterly disgraced. They thought they were the heirs to a fortune, but they forgot that I was the one who built it. Mark is gone, but his legacy is safe, because I'm finally the one holding the keys.
What a powerful reminder that justice has a way of finding its path, even in our darkest moments of grief. But I want to hear from you. In a situation like Elena's, where family turns into vultures, do you think legal action is enough? Or is the emotional damage permanent? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Please remember that the story you just witnessed was a fictional dramatization created specifically for societal reform and educational awareness. We share these intense scenarios to shine a light on dark realities and financial betrayals, but we urge you never to repeat these toxic behaviors or legal schemes in your own lives. Use this as a lesson in protection, not a blueprint for conflict. Ultimately, Elena's journey shows us that integrity and preparation are the ultimate shields against greed. If you found value in this story and want to help us spread awareness, please subscribe and hit the bell icon to join us for our daily deep dives into justice and karma.